Well, Callum, welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. That was a enthralling weekend for a change.
Very, very exciting. Very good weekend. Great Aberdeen victory. Newcastle United won, and the mighty Miami Heat won the basketball as well. What more could you ask for?
I know, we need to get rid of that American nonsense off your timeline.
I mean, I have to deal with Formula One and line of duty stuff, so it's only fair I put some bad stuff out there. And when Bam Adebayo hits a game-winning shot, 107 against the Brooklyn Nets, do you expect me to not tweet about it? A buzzer beater. Come on.
To be fair, it's quite easy to just mute or unfollow without having, if you don't like what you see. And hopefully we're going to continue to like what we see from Stephen Glass as his era got well underway as the Dons continue their march to the Scottish Cup. Well, we're through.
That's exciting, isn't it? I know, it was a whirlwind of a game. I was thoroughly entertained for once. I definitely did like what I saw. And if people at home are liking what they see, this is just flowing off the tongue, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe as well while you're here so you're not to miss out in future.
Yeah, definitely. And, we did like what we saw by still staying in the cup. And it's fair to say, as we've touched on there, we were entertained for a first time in a long time. But there was, spells of turgid football. But, you can't expect miracles straight away from a new man. But the most important thing when you're in a cup competition is getting through to the next round. And by hook or by crook, we've managed to do it. And we probably rode our luck at times as well.
I think it's fair to say we did. It was very much, especially the opening minutes of the game, chaotic. You could tell it was a cup tie.
It was podcast. Chaotic.
Oh yeah, chaotic. But it was high tempo. It was all over the shop, and I loved it. Very much like this podcast, exactly. But we got through. We got through in the end. That's the absolute main thing, as you said. And that's after 3 days of Stephen Glass having them on the training pitch, with going through his routine. So I'm very happy with that. And if it'll get better from here on out, it can only be good things. I'm feeling very positive, Glenn.
Yeah, and I'm impressed. You watched obviously the game, but also rewatched the highlights this morning as well to refresh yourself. So, fully prepared for a digest of the game. And the title that I've gone with to look back at the game was the old guard proving their worth. As I think when the team was announced, there was maybe a bit of a surprise by some that there wasn't maybe youth products included in the starting lineup. He went very much experienced, and you can't fault him for that, I guess.
I mean, it paid off, despite my complaints.
Yeah.
He said,
I know I wasn't naming names of people complaining.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Also, thanks for mentioning that I've watched the game and watched highlights now. If I cock up now, I've only myself to blame. But no, he named the lineup. He said prior to the game he might mix things up. It might be something that we don't expect. Didn't expect that. I expected more youth to be getting a chance. It went the other way than I thought, in all honesty. But it paid off. It did pay off. The old guard did pay off, and sort of rolled back the years a little bit there, didn't they?
Yeah, it was. It was prime time, early doors. McInnes obviously getting his early return to Pittodrie as well through Premier Sports.
That was interesting. It was very funny of them to do. They were definitely hoping that we got knocked out in a disastrous fashion, and they didn't get it, thankfully.
No, thankfully not.
Yeah, waiting for his little smug face when that happened, but thankfully it didn't happen.
No. And I suppose, like you said, the opening exchanges in the game were very much end to end. Nicky Devlin having a great opportunity to score for Livingston. But we actually looked threatening going forward, just as kind of has been the story of our season, the final third very much letting us down.
Yeah, we looked good. We created chances, a few in the first half, and not only that as well, very energetic in the press as well, which I enjoyed a little bit more. A lot more urgency about the place, which God knows we've needed. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I suppose the players have spoken on the increase in intensity in training. One thing McInnes prided himself on was having a fit team, so I don't think fitness was ever going to be a concern as the game wore on, but you could certainly see the intensity that's possibly been applied in training certainly relayed on the pitch throughout not only the 90 minutes but extra time as well.
More percent. I mean, he seemed to be moving the ball about a bit quicker as well, a bit of a higher tempo, which, because we know it's been side to side, very boring for years. So it was a bit more encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose though our frustrations did continue in front of goal in the first half, but at the other end of the pitch there was a big cause for concern when Joe Lewis went down clutching his ribs. It hasn't yet been announced the severity of the injury, whether it's bruising or a fracture, but that was definitely a concern at that stage in the game, wasn't it?
100%. I think it's due to undergo an X-ray before the Celtic game, but the thing is with that as well, it wasn't through anyone's fault really. Sort of Guthrie and Hope, when sort of tangled legs, fell into Joe Lewis. Very, very unfortunate. The fact he carried on, I was quite surprised with initially in the first place, to be honest, because he was writhing about on the floor, very much clearly in pain. But it was a big sore loss. Hopefully he's back before the end of the season, in all honesty. But Woods came in, did okay. He wasn't tested too much. Distribution looked decent. Happy enough. We couldn't ask much more from him, really, could we?
Yeah, and I suppose he wasn't. Probably the one thing he was hoping not to have to do was pick the ball out of the net with his first touch. But credit to J. Emmanuel Thomas, one for taking full advantage of very slack play from Johnny Hayes, but then linking up quite brilliantly with Scott Pittman, and that first touch to take it past the defender and slot it home very coolly. We were just very much punished for poor defending.
Yeah, not to take away from J. Emmanuel Thomas's goal. As you said, the link-up play with Pittman, very, very good. But J. Emmanuel Thomas, big lad, great feet. It's the classic, isn't it? But I'm not sure what Johnny Hayes was really trying to do there. Try to let the ball out, I guess. But in the replay, it shows that he could. J. Emmanuel Thomas actually had his hand on him. So how did he not know he was there? What did he think was going to happen there? Very much punished. Other than his assist, maybe didn't have the best game, but if he wants to roll back the years with that kind of thing going forward, fine by me. I won't complain. We ended up getting through. Positivity for once, Glenn.
Yeah, PMA. And I suppose in the first half, we did create chances. Matty Kennedy putting a great ball into the box that Fraser Hornby does connect well with, but I suppose it's a save you expect Stryjek to make. And then we spoke about rolling back the years going forward. Niall McGinn and Johnny Hayes. Niall McGinn winning the ball brilliantly in the middle of the field, breaking forward, but just that final pass just behind Johnny Hayes, it wasn't played into his feet that he could run onto, and that really killed the tempo of the move. But other than those kind of opportunities, we didn't really see much in terms of clear cut chances for Aberdeen.
No, on that one specifically though, it was good to see a little bit of bite from Niall McGinn going in and winning the ball. Okay, the pass to Johnny Hayes was poor, but it was just good to see a little bit of urgency from him. He's not the fastest man. The pace is gone, let's be honest. But it was a little bit of urgency, a little bit of creativity. Unfortunate with the ball, but thankfully it didn't prove to cost us too much in the end.
Yeah, and I think Niall McGinn certainly rolled back the years and certainly showed the potential that he still has. Albeit, obviously, I don't see him as a regular starter for throughout the whole season, but certainly showed, maybe given that he's out of contract, any potential suitors that are watching what he's more than capable of doing. But when Livy went 1-0 up, did you kind of fear the worst given our poor record of scoring goals so far this season?
I was a little bit concerned. That's only taking into account what we've been like the rest of this season, not taking into account what we're going to be like under glass. Who knows what that's going to be like, but it's an encouraging sign that the fact we went behind twice, clawed it back twice. Okay, it's against Livingston, no disrespect to them, but we've got a bigger squad, better squad you could say. But I suppose, encouraging signs. I was very worried though, I won't lie. I thought it was going to be not again capitulation. I thought it was going to happen, or they sit in and we just fail to break them down. Thankfully that wasn't the case.
For me, that was my biggest concern. What you've just said there was Livingston. I mean, okay, since they beat us at Pittodrie, they haven't won away from home. But normally, a team that pride themselves on their defensive work and do their best to protect a lead. So for a team like ourselves that has been so blunt in recent weeks against a team that has something to hold on to, I really was fearing the worst at 1-0. But I think a mixture of surprise in terms of how much we didn't give up and exploited gaps down the wing. But I was actually surprised by Livingston's game management in the second half. And it was really the pivotal moment in the game. The one time they ventured forward and did catch us out, Nicky Devlin's ball back across probably chose the wrong option, led to us breaking up the other end of the pitch, and ultimately Niall McGinn with a superb finish. I mean, the replay from behind the goal just shows how good a touch it was to then finish it in between Fitzwater and Guthrie.
Oh yeah, absolutely stunning finish. Something we've seen from Niall McGinn a lot over the years, perhaps not as frequently as I liked recently. But yeah, absolutely beautiful from him. And it's interesting you mentioned that we didn't give up and all that sort of thing. It's what they said on Red TV with Glass. I don't know if you've maybe seen it, released it on Twitter, saying that they kept from the touchline, the instruction was just keep playing the same game. Don't panic. Just stick to the game plan. Paid dividends in the end. But yeah, very good finish from Niall McGinn. More of that towards the end of the season would be very much welcome.
Yeah, starting on Wednesday would be even more welcome. Do you think, though, I was listening to Martindale's comments at the end of the game, they felt aggrieved at going out with the competition? Do you think, I was also listening to the Talk Livy podcast where they probably felt that Livingston let Aberdeen off the hook throughout the 90 minutes. Do you think Livingston have the right to feel aggrieved by exiting the cup competition?
I think so. I think the fact it went all the way to penalties is probably very telling of how the game was. I think it's a fair reflection, to be honest. Not much between the sides. I suppose, essentially, maybe did let us off the hook when they've obviously got the leads twice and then throw it away twice. But it's nothing less than we deserved equally at the same time, really.
Yeah, and I suppose there was a couple of contentious decisions going on, the penalty that Livingston got, but equally I suppose Tommy Hoban lucky to stay on the pitch and not see red for I think it was very obvious second yellow when he hauled down, I think it was Pittman or Robinson in the set in extra time. The ball went wide and the referee played advantage, and I was very surprised. One, he did play advantage, but when the play stopped, you look at you as a Newcastle fan, you look at that game at the weekend when Newcastle went on to score, he pulls the play back and sends Craig Dawson off. I was very surprised because it was a pretty reckless challenge from Tommy Hoban, who again didn't really cover himself in glory throughout the game on Saturday.
It's been an interesting case with Tommy Hoban. I think, he was lucky that he didn't get pulled back, let alone given the foul order in the first place. He seems to look a lot more comfortable on the right side of the sort of three centre-halves at the back. Now that they're in the two, doesn't look so comfortable, and against the typical presidents like J. Emmanuel Thomas as well seems to struggle. The very curious case, obviously his contract up at the end of the season as well. It'll be interesting to see how that develops, see what happens there between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. And that one interesting stat I did like from the game was Niall McGinn scoring the first goal of the Stephen Glass era. He also scored the first goal of Derek McInnes era 8 years ago. So it just, like we said, really we're rolling back the years there.
100%, yeah.
I suppose from a Livingston point of view, they will be disappointed in that equaliser. Wrong choice. Failing to pick out an attacker, which would probably killed the game if it had gone 2-0. But John Guthrie kind of just throwing out a leg to try and stop the pass. But I thought, I don't know, maybe kind of reading too much into it, I thought our attacking play and set pieces, apart from Lewis Ferguson blasting the ball aimlessly wide from the set piece at the end of the first half, we looked a lot more threatening. Dean Campbell had a couple of good deliveries. Second half with Ferguson's header down into the ground. There's maybe evidence of the work that Alan Russell's putting in already. God
knows we need it, let's be honest. We've been poor from set pieces for years, but yeah, it is encouraging signs, and obviously that's only after 3 days on the training ground working Alan Russell and Stephen Glass with the team. So if we can keep on that upward trajectory, I believe the word is, if I've said it rightly, who knows, it can only be a good thing, let's be honest. But also just going back towards that equaliser, Flo Canberry, the man that picked it up from deep as well before getting out to Johnny Hayes. Good work from him for that as well. Fair play, it's got to be said.
Yeah, he did have a good game, I suppose. There was a few, for me, frustrations with his performance in terms of at 2-1 when he had the chance, when he was through on goal, he kind of cut back. For me, I felt needlessly. And thankfully, just a few seconds later, he gets on that end of the cross, but we will come to that. First of all, though, we should really talk about the penalty that Livingston were awarded. The jet crash landed to the Pittodrie turf under the slightest of contact from Dean Campbell. There we go. Got my pun in for the episode.
I liked it. I'm not even going to complain about that one, in all honesty.
Penalty for you then?
No. I think silly from Campbell, perhaps showing an experience especially to jump, to leave the ground seemed a bit weird. But so soft, minimal contact on a big lad like J. Manuel Thomas as well. Enough from little Dean Campbell to make you go down? I don't think so. I've said that up the other end, we're probably screaming for it, but that's just the way football is. But no, soft for me 100%. And capped off probably a pretty poor referee performance from a man I didn't even recognise, to be honest.
Yeah, a man that looked like Sid from Toy Story.
Yeah, I don't even know who he is. I've never seen him before.
And again, on that incident, the Talk Livy boys, they agreed it was a soft penalty and probably never a penalty, which was in stark contrast to Chris Iwelumo on Sports Scene, who said it was 100% a penalty because the referee will have heard the contact from Dean Campbell on J. Emmanuel Thomas's foot. But I did actually note that down about kind of the naivety of Dean Campbell, the way he kind of jumped into the tackle. But if you're giving that as a penalty, then the game's gone, because it's just a ridiculous decision.
Imagine Chris Iwelumo saying that he heard the contact. Just because there's contact doesn't mean there's a penalty. And especially when there's a huge boy like J. Manuel Thomas throwing himself to the ground from such minimal contact as well.
And you wonder if that then plays a mind in kind of the Tommy Hoban decision. Does that level things out? We've had John Bleasdale on the podcast before saying that referees don't think like that. But
they shouldn't, but you never know, do you?
You never know.
Human nature.
But as we've spoken about already in this episode, the character that we've shown throughout the game, not only to come back from behind once, but it was quite an immediate response this time, getting back to 2-2. And that man, Flo Canberry, a man who we were I was certainly very critical of in the last round against Dumbarton, getting on the end of a Niall McGinn assist to bring it all square.
Very, very well worked goal. Fair play, Flo Canberry. By the way, first game under Stephen Glass, Flo Canberry's already broke the duck. That's all I'm saying. But it was also very, very good to see him come off the bench, have a huge impact like that. It seems very interesting that the strikers who start the game not cutting it, and then whoever comes on seems to have an impact. I mean, it's exactly what you want from a substitute, but it's not great for the starters. But I'm happy that Flo Canberry came on and did so. Took his chance well.
Yeah, took his chance well, and I think it was a well-worked link-up play between, I don't know if it was Dean Campbell or was it Callum Hendry?
Callum Hendry.
Was it the ball into Niall McGinn, obviously with the outside of his foot, but Canberry was so alert to, as soon as that ball was played into McGinn, he was off and he left Jason Holt for dead, who was just standing ball watching. I mean, it couldn't happen to a nicer man, but capitalising on that mistake there from Livingston, and you could see the frustration from the Livingston players when they, like, how's he got free? How's he finished that off? And yes, you know, as we say, you ride your luck at times, but you've got to be there and you've got to finish your chances. And Canberra hasn't been doing that recently, so for him to finish that will not only give him confidence, hopefully for the rest of the season, but it did give us confidence throughout the rest of extra time, because I felt after that there was only ever really going to be one team winning that game.
100%, yeah. I felt like if it was going to finish in extra time before going to penalties, that we were going to come out on top. But yeah, very happy for Flo Canberry. It seemed to work very well. He dropped deep for that goal and then worked up the link-up play through the interplay, finished it off. Very good instinct, as you said. Couldn't happen to a nice man, Jason Holt. Everyone that I've spoken to about the game has said the exact same thing about that and the penalty. Thank God it was Jason Holt.
Yeah. The Rangers connection. Speaking of penalties then, 5 out of 5 from penalties. People say it's a lottery, but I know certainly under McInnes he made sure that we were practicing penalties. I wonder if the Niall McGinn substitution was tactical with penalties coming up. He's not got a good record in them.
Hey, you said it. You said it. I'm glad he wasn't on the park because he would have been in the 5, and I think he missed like the last 3 or something in penalty shots, maybe. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ferguson, he was lucky. He was a lucky boy. That was a poor penalty. Just sort of got it past Strychek's legs. But other than that, very confident penalties, very cool, calm, collected. Yeah. Fair play, Dean Campbell, especially for giving away his penalty. The criticism he's been receiving recently, I would hate to think the criticism he would have got if he stepped up and missed that pen. Yeah. But he's got big steens, put it away very, very nicely.
Yeah, and actually even the way Canberra tucked his away, I was kind of we're having a discussion in the group chats on who your 5 would have been. I did think Campbell would want to take one. I didn't expect him to be up so high in taking one. I thought maybe he'd have been like 6 or 7 if it went that far. But fair play to him for having the bottle to do so. And I know it's also...
Sorry. I just going to show off here. I thought Campbell would be in mine because there was one game for, I think, Scotland under 19s. Maybe they beat, I think maybe it was Spain 2-1 and he scored both penalties. So there we go. Yeah. There you go. Carry on. I've finished showing off now.
Well, he was certainly coolly slotted away, but I know the Livingston guys, they had complaints that their keeper couldn't have made it any easier for our penalties by hardly moving.
Oh yeah, he didn't make much effort, did he? Didn't make much effort at all. But thankfully our keeper didn't have to make much effort either. Because that penalty from Jason Holt, he didn't look confident at all. Lovely stuff.
No, but after following up Linthos, or however you say it, because that's just going to get a total tongue twister for me, when he rattled his into the roof of the net. It was almost like he was trying to copy that. But I actually thought on first viewing that it actually had bounced over the line, just the way it kind of quickly came out. But when you watch the replay, okay, it was nowhere near the line, but just how fortunate we were that didn't ricochet in off Gary Wood's behind and go in. But he went the right way for that penalty, and he was, I mean, Aaron Taylor Sinclair, his penalty was excellent, but Gary Wood's again going the right way. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, it would have been, could you imagine that's some debut if it had gone in off Buddy Wood's backside? That would have been terrible.
I know, but that's 2 penalty shootouts in a row now that Joe Lewis hasn't featured in, actually. And we've won both of them as well.
So last one, Freddie Woodman.
It was indeed, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
Oh yeah, we're having loads of fun.
I suppose though, that job done, we've got Dundee United to look forward to on Sunday, live on the BBC, thankfully. I know many of you will be delighted it's on BBC and not behind Premier's pay. Well, you have to pay for Premier, obviously they don't even do a pay-per-view option. That's kind of how the game went, but I suppose we should kind of look at a few of the talking points. Do you want to start on Conor McLennan, a man that you've staunchly supported?
It wasn't great, was it? It wasn't great. Couldn't cross the road sort of springs to mind. And I just keep telling myself he'll get better with time. He's still a young lad. He's still learning the game. I've stuck up for Dean Campbell. I'll stick up for Colin McLennan. Just give him some time. He'll come good. I promise.
It was Robbie Hanratty's tweet for me that actually kind of summed him up perfectly. He's an exciting but frustrating player to watch because his lack of awareness is excruciating at times. He likes to run down rabbit holes, get himself lost. It's, we've spoken about his brain and his feet not engaging, and I think the way the game was going on Saturday night the game was passing him by the longer it went on, and we looked so much more effective as soon as he came off.
Probably true, but again, I'll say it. It's not easy to have an effect on games when you're in and out of the team like no man's business. You need to get some sort of consistency, build up his confidence. He's obviously a confidence player. When we saw him come into the team in the first place, confidence was high, thought he was going to be brilliant. But now he's sort of in and out of the team, getting dropped from the bench, getting 20 minutes here and there. That's no use. It's no use at all.
No, we'll see what comes for him for the rest of the season. My other area of concern for me was Ross McCrory at right back, because we look really short there. I know we've sent our right back to Hearts on loan, But Livingston were having a lot of joy down that side. Ross McCrory kind of looking a bit uncomfortable, and you think when we've got Celtic on Wednesday, Hibs in the race for third, and another trip to Ibrox before the end of the season, you just think of the quality these teams have got. Like, think of Martin Boyle, Ryan Kent, Mohamed El Yunusi. They're going to cause him all sorts of problems.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think uncomfortable is the word to use. I think tactically it's not his best position at all. I did like the energy he brought at right back, I suppose, getting up and down that flank all day long, even deep into extra time, and step up and take that penalty, I suppose, as well. But yeah, it's not his position, is it? It really isn't. No. But I suppose when you're trying to get Dean Campbell, Ferguson, and him into the team, that sort of thing happens. And when you've got little other option, I suppose, too.
Yeah, because one of them's in Atlanta and the other one's in Edinburgh. So.
Yeah, one of them's halfway up Arthur's seat on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, but I suppose as well, I don't know if these changes to the defensive lineup's having an effect on Tommy Hoban, because there's something about him in recent weeks. It's almost like he's lost a bit of confidence as well, because he's a shadow of the player that we saw in August and September time.
Yeah, it is deeply concerning. Maybe it is to do with sort of the recent change in system, the lack of consistency in lineup, but at the same time, he's been a defender all his life. He should know how to play in a back four. But maybe he is getting exposed with McCrory on that side. Well, I suppose that wouldn't excuse the past few games, but perhaps that's my excuse for Saturday.
Yeah, I did like the tweet though about if Hoban's a Rolls Royce, then he's a Rolls Royce with 160,000 miles on the clock, given the performance.
Yeah, I mean, also not the quickest runner either as well. He looks a bit leggy. Does our Tommy Hoban?
Yeah, I mean, we knew he's kind of was going to struggle with the heavy fixture load. Well, that was the excuse at the beginning of the season. Whether or not that's going to take its toll coming towards the business end now. Before we preview the midweek clash against Celtic, what's kind of your overriding feeling after Stephen Glass's first game in charge then? Positives to take?
Yeah, I'm excited, I think. As I mentioned, I was actually entertained watching Aberdeen for once, which is a big change. It's not been enjoyable this season, especially being at home. I think I'm feeling confident about going forward, about this sort of attacking brand of football, if it does pay off, and we'll see what happens against Celtic if we go with that. I'm buying into it, I feel like. I feel like I'm buying into it. He's saying all the right things too off the park. I think I'm all for it, in all honesty. Glenn, what about you? What are you thinking? Yeah,
I mean, you're right there. There was the excitement that we had for the first time in far too long this season, with, like you said, being stuck at home. But not only did, for me, it highlighted the work that is still kind of going to be left for him to do in certain areas of the pitch there. We've discussed right back, probably in the forward area as well. You know, good point you made there. It always takes a change up top for us to lead to scoring a goal. But I was also encouraged with only a few days' work that we do seem to kind of have changed some ideas in our attacking play, and maybe are going to start posing a bit more threat from set pieces, which you look at Alan Russell coming in from there. So excitement certainly for next season, once they've had a full pre-season to work under, kind of put their own stamp on the squad. But yeah, definitely positive take. Obviously still in the cup as well is the biggest positive.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. I think they mentioned this sort of intensity as well that seemed to bring, and like I've mentioned it a few times, just 3 days as well, and that's we're seeing things paying off as well already. So fingers crossed he can carry on doing so. I'm all for it. I think this, once he gets his own squad in as well, see how the recruitment goes, as you mentioned, up the top end of the park, that will be very, very interesting, considering we're left essentially strikerless going into next season. That'll be interesting. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm feeling very hopeful.
Well, hopefully the excitement and hopefulness for this season and certainly into next can continue on Wednesday night. And Calum, we're delighted to be joined by Colin Watt of the Football Insomniac podcast to preview Wednesday's game. Colin, welcome back to Red Tinted Glasses. Thanks very much for taking the time to join us again.
Yeah, it's good to be back, boys.
Yeah, your last appearance was certainly well received, so we're delighted for you to take the time and joining us again. It's fair to say the Scottish Cup held mixed results for both of us. Calum, as we've just discussed, about the Livingston, the victory over them, will this kind of give us confidence going into Wednesday night's game?
I hope so. And whenever I've seen Celtic sort of play badly like that, I've always thought when we are about to play them, I'll say, we'll have a go at them. They're not that good, but I've seen it often enough. They'll take it out on us. That's the problem. That's what I'm worried about.
Do you know? I think you're all right here. I think Celtic's now in that mode where it's like when you go to work and you've only got a couple of days left before you leave for a new job, or you've only got a couple of days before you knock off to go on a 2-week holiday, and it's like you don't want to start anything new. You're not really that focused. There's nothing to concentrate on. You're spending 10 minutes getting a coffee, maybe 4 or 5 times. There's absolutely nothing for Celtic to play for now. I honestly think Aberdeen, knowing that you've got the battle going on for third place, you guys will be far more up for this game than what we will be on Wednesday, and I'm not anticipating Celtic getting a good result. Well,
that was what I was going to ask you, Colin. Obviously, Sunday was a game to forget in what's probably been a season to forget for Celtic as a whole. But I suppose from an Aberdeen point of view, we always see Celtic raise their game when they're on this poor run of form, and it always happens to be Aberdeen that bear the brunt. But do you kind of expect that? We touched on before recording, this will be the first season since 2010 that Celtic won't have won anything. Mm-hmm. Just how do Celtic come into this game then?
I mean, there was almost that sort of kind of wave of confidence that Celtic were on for that period after Neil Lennon departed. We're sitting kind of going, well, what would have happened if he'd left earlier? If Kennedy had maybe taken the team from January till the end of the season, would it have been closer? Would we have maybe given people a game? But then watching that game on Sunday, it was almost as if they didn't turn up. The 4 basically mega chances to score. I mean, it wasn't as if they were difficult. They weren't half chances. They were full-blown chances to put the ball in the back of the net, and they couldn't take it. Kennedy couldn't make subs that would change the game. You look at the squad, and I could go through the squad, and when I did, I'm looking at potentially maybe 5 players out of that 20-man squad that's going to be at Celtic next season. So coming up against you guys on Wednesday night, I'm sitting going, who are we actually going to play here? Who actually wants to turn up between now and the end of the season? You've got players that have got their mind on the Euros. You've got players that are already looking at their next club. And you've got players that just kind of want to go, well, I've been through this season. That's the restriction season a wee bit. I quite fancy going on holiday. So it's going to be difficult for Kennedy to get the players kind of revved up for this game. Obviously, there is a bit of rivalry between Celtic and Aberdeen. It's been like that for a number of years now. I guess, are we going to call it the Scott Brown Derby as of next season? Is that the way it's going to go?
We could do, yeah.
But no, I think some players will be playing for their future. Others will be playing for their future elsewhere. And I just don't know how much Celtic's going to raise their game for this. And Aberdeen need the points more, and you've got to expect that Stephen Glass will put his team out there knowing what happened at the weekend and say, look, these boys are here for the taking.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it, Calum, and I suppose that's kind of a fair point. We have something to play for, and do you think with a new manager we've got the confidence of coming behind twice at the weekend and then going on to get the victory? Can we use that? And as Colin says, we need the points. Can we use that on Wednesday against a Celtic side severely lacking in confidence?
I certainly hope so. We got the result that was needed over the weekend. That was obviously the most important thing, get through the next round. The players will know what's at stake in this game. I'm sure Stephen Glass will make sure of that. And if we do play this exciting attacking brand of football that he's been mentioning, and we do have a go at Celtic, a fragile Celtic side, particularly down the wings, let's be honest, we've got every chance. This season as a whole has been our best chance to go at Celtic in years. We've not seen it yet. Is he the man to make it happen? I hope so.
Yeah, barring the 3-3 at Pittodrie where we did have a go but ultimately fell short in getting the win. I mean, my concern ahead of Wednesday immediately is Joel Lewis's fitness and what that'll mean to our defence, because Gary Woods wasn't overly tested, I don't think, really, on Saturday to kind of see what he's made of. But, you said there, can we get down Celtic's wings? We certainly did that on Saturday. We showed a bit more attacking intent. Hopefully we can build on that, maybe a couple of training sessions and see what that leads to. But Colin, yourself and Natasha, both associated with a Celtic state of mind, both of you tweeted something similar at full time, saying the rebuild for Celtic starts now. In what way does that rebuild start now? Do you feel that there'll be a change to your starting 11 come Wednesday?
I mean, I think the rebuild at Celtic is basically from the ground up. You're talking from players to management to staff behind the scenes to... I think the whole structure of the club is going to change over this summer. And I think it's something that has been desperately needed for the last couple of years now. We've seen it already today. Dominic Mackay comes in, been given his guided tour by Peter Lawwell today, we believe. So he's probably sitting down having a couple of biscuits watching this later on. Yeah. But no, I think that there could be a couple of changes to the side on Wednesday night. I think you've got to take a look at players that are definitely going to be there next season, just to see what kind of value you've got in them, and see if it's worth kind of looking to move them on or worth keeping them in the side. There's other players that could potentially just have their loan deals cancelled tomorrow and not a lot of Celtic fans would care. Diego Laxalt's performance against Rangers at the weekend was shambolic, to say the least. I think it was a big surprise to see him start over Greg Taylor, and I'd expect Taylor to get his jersey back for the game on Wednesday night. When I look at the team, I'm going to kind of give a predicted team. Whether this is the team that Celtic pick or not, I don't know. But I can see us going with Barkas in goal, Anthony Ralston at right back, Welsh and Ayer at centre half with Greg Taylor, Sorrell, Brown, Forrest, Turnbull, Johnston and Griffiths. So that's the team I could maybe see coming up against Aberdeen Wednesday.
Some really wholesale change, and I suppose for a player like Greg Taylor, like you said, fighting for the Euros, he's probably looking at that, maybe just to get into the squad at least. I suppose his position of left back's very well covered in the national team. But
you say that, but I mean, you take a look at this Super League that's just been announced, and maybe Robertson and Tierney won't qualify for the Scotland squad this summer.
Yeah, very true. And I suppose while there's maybe question marks surrounding Kieran Tierney's fitness as well, obviously with the knee injury picked up, but there's one name that I was surprised, Cam, I don't know if you picked up on it, Scott Brown starting. I wasn't sure if we would maybe see him, as Colin said, in this potential Scott Brown derby match.
That would be very, very interesting. We'd see how that goes, but mentioning Diego Laxalt, by the way, sorry, I know you mentioned the Super League. How's that man on the books at AC Milan? There's not a chance he's going to be playing the Super League for them. But I think that it would be interesting. Scott Brown plays, see how he does. Obviously, he didn't have the best of games over the weekend. He got sent to the shops a couple of times by Ryan Kent. It's a very interesting saga, and that would just be another twist in the tail, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think it'd be interesting if that predicted lineup that you've given, Colin, does kind of bear fruit, because it's a young side, but also kind of looking from an Aberdeen point of view with players out of contract. It's a Celtic team that would have something to prove. You look at Lee Griffiths, who's not obviously had many minutes this season. Transfer speculation obviously has been rife around him as well. So even in defence, Welsh has been impressive when he's filled in. Ralston's probably not lived up to his potential after laughing in Neymar's face. But it's kind of, like you said, it's got for Celtic a end of season feel to it, and for Aberdeen a game with importance. And certainly if we can pick up 3 points, it very much keeps the race for third alive, Calum. And we all know the importance that's going to have come the end of the season, with the potential for a guaranteed group stage in Europe, whatever that's going to look like.
Who knows what competition it could be in by that time, honestly. But yeah, our games to be coming thick and fast now, and with ever increasing importance really at this stage. Absolutely huge. But the thing is, the feeling around Celtic fans seems to be, from what I can gather from Colin especially, how we sort of felt a couple of weeks ago, sort of apathy, just like get this season done now, get it done, get it out of the way. Whereas now we're up for it. It's interesting.
Yeah,
when you take a look at, sorry Glenn, I think when you take a look at it as well, Hibs are playing Livingston on Wednesday night, and if Livingston play anything, I mean, I think they played better against Aberdeen at the weekend than what they did against Celtic the week before. But Hibs will be looking at that as a chance to pick up the 3 points. And if Aberdeen don't pick up the 3 points, you're left with a gap of 7 points with only 9 to play for. You guys have still got to play Hibs and Rangers. It just makes it that bit even more difficult. So you've got to look at this game to say, well, Celtic are coming into it, they're kind of down, they've got nothing to play for. You've got to give it everything. It might play into Celtic's hands that we've not got to try and break down 10 men, as what happened against Livingston a couple of weeks ago. But you've got to take that risk, because the reward, if it comes through, is definitely more worth it than not having a go at all.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that would be the biggest frustration for us. And it has been many times when we've faced Celtic is not having a go. And I think, as you said, with the points difference, even the goal difference just now probably is an extra point for Hibs. So for me, this is really a must win if we want to keep any faint, and I do still believe it is a faint hope of third place alive. But, we haven't beaten Celtic in our last 13 games. With 1-0 draw in there, conceding 25 in those 13 games. So stopping Celtic from scoring is going to have to be of big importance. And Callum, if Joe Lewis doesn't play, how big a loss will that be for us?
Could be a huge loss, Joe Lewis not playing. We know what he's capable of between the sticks. Gary Woods came in, did okay, wasn't tested too much. His distribution, though, did look pretty good. But try to keep a lid on Celtic's attacking players would be huge. Especially Odsonne Edouard slagged him off at the weekend, called him a poor man's Flo Canberry. I'm beginning to regret that now. We'll probably see that come back to bite me in the bum, but depends, I suppose, if Griffiths starts, a man with a point to prove too. Very concerning. But I'm still thinking, if we ever go at them, they've got to come out. No, if we go at them, they could hit us in the break. That's what I'm worrying about. That's what I'm really scared about, because they could just pick us off with ease.
Yeah, and we saw how easily J. Emmanuel Thomas ran through our team at one point, and that's before you take in El Yunusi, who against Livingston was absolutely clinical. Ryan Christie, well, it depends if he can hit the target or not, because we know how erratic his shooting can be. But Celtic have just got that bit of quality all over the pitch that if we do allow them to break, we could very easily be punished. We did see on Saturday, as we've spoken about already, Callum, the old guard coming to fruition, and the experienced heads of Niall McGinn getting a goal and assist. How crucial do you think they'll be in this game? Niall McGinn, a player that I always question against Celtic whether he's fully committed.
He has been anonymous over the years, but if he does want to sort of keep up the same sort of form as he did over the weekend, then that would be very much welcome, especially after we've maybe not been that complimentary of him on this show. Likewise, Johnny Hayes putting a bit of performance also against his former club too. It'll be interesting, but the experience could prove vital, because the rest of the squad was a pretty young team. Got the youngsters been bleeding them in, and their experience could be vital. Yeah,
and I suppose the team that you've predicted, Colin, it'll be interesting to see what changes we make if Jack McKenzie comes back in at left back. That'll be a big challenge for him. We've seen Ross McCrory fill in at right back on Saturday. I don't really think he's suited to that role. So there's probably areas of the pitch that Celtic could look to exploit, Colin.
Yeah, I think it'll all depend on the fitness of James Forrest. If James Forrest can get himself fit for the game on Wednesday night, he will make a big difference. You saw at the weekend the fact that Celtic didn't have that width. They couldn't attack Rangers down the sides. You saw Patterson, although he grew into the game, at the first sort of 20, 30 minutes, he looked kind of like you could have a go at him and he might kind of struggle a bit. Celtic didn't have that width, and they've not had it all season. So if you're looking at an Aberdeen side which is struggling to look at the full-backs and kind of fill in the gaps there, if you can get James Forrest and perhaps Mikey Johnson, even Elyounoussi, down both of those channels to play the balls in, and you get the ball to an Edouard or a Griffiths, you get that ball at their feet, there's a good chance they're going to stick it in the back of the net. The thing that's kind of I would be concerned that if I was an Aberdeen fan is the goal ratio that you were talking about. You're talking about a team that's maybe on, I think is it 33 goals in 34 league games this season?
Yeah, it's not great.
The fact that you're not even averaging a goal a game, if you go a goal behind, are you going to get back into it? The stats would say no. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I suppose it's a good point, because it was going to be a question I was going to pose to you, Colin, but I'll pose it to Callum first. Given that we went behind not once but twice on Saturday, do you think that will help us if we were to go behind against Celtic? We've got that confidence, and we know we can get back, but psychologically against an opposition that we've previously struggled.
Exactly what I was thinking. It must give that sort of belief that we can come from behind, a bit of mental toughness there. But against Celtic, it's a whole different story. Given the amount of time, given the quality they have, first of all, and the amount of times over the years we have gone to go behind and completely crumbled, it's worrying, but they've got to put that behind them now. And
I think for me, if you look at kind of the chances that Livingston kind of missed or didn't capitalise on, that's not the sort of chances you can give up to a team of Celtic, because Livingston maybe missed 3 or 4 of them. Celtic might miss 1 or 2. There's a higher percentage of the quality of players that Celtic have, like you said, like Lee Griffiths, Edward, even Mikey Johnson on his day. They've just got that little bit of quality that can punish teams. So, Colin, my question for you was going to be, given the record that Celtic have over Aberdeen, after Sunday's disappointment, are we almost the perfect opposition for you to come up against?
I guess in normal situations it would be, because you do both sides, the teams, the players raise their games. You always see it. I mean, Aberdeen could be on a 10-game losing streak, come to Celtic Park, and it would be a fantastic game because it would be end to end and it would be really close. And it's the same with Celtic as well. The problem I think with Celtic at the minute is, as I said earlier, they're almost in holiday mode. The season's done. There's nothing to play for. Can they actually be bothered to raise their game to get up to that level that's going to be required to defeat Aberdeen? That's the bit I'm not sure about, and that's where I think the changes would need to come in to freshen it up, to give guys that are maybe looking to get spots in the Euro squad, like Taylor, like Forrest, a chance to impress. Guys like Sorrow, who's maybe playing for his future. Scott Brown's probably got a point to prove that he's still switched on at Celtic, even though he's going to be playing for Aberdeen next season. There's a lot of players there that are probably playing for their future in the team that I've predicted. I don't know if that'll be the team that plays. What you do have to look at is the last time Celtic were in this scenario, when we came up against Aberdeen, we lost. That was the game. Was it Constantine that scored the winner?
Constantine 1-0, yeah.
So it does show you that if Celtic switch off, Aberdeen have the ability to do it. So I'm concerned about the game on Wednesday. Get to Wednesday, I might be a bit more confident when I see the team line come out. But right now, and I don't even know if I'll be able to see it. I hear it's on Red TV, $12.99 on Red TV.
Yeah, pay-per-view package out there, obviously free to those of you that are Aberdeen season ticket holders as well.
You can send me a login, Glenn.
Yeah, we'll do that. That's fine. I'll just do a Zoom. We can screen share it.
We'll go live during the game.
That'd be a good idea. It's interesting though you bring up that Constantine game, which was I think actually was our last victory over Celtic, because in that game we needed to win to secure second place. Obviously Rangers had that roller coaster game at Easter Road, but likewise this is going to be a game where a win will help us reach potentially third place. So, and I think for us as well, we're still learning what Stephen Glass is going to bring to the side, what his tactics are going to be. So Callum, I don't know about you, but it's probably still, I'm so used to McInnes's sitting off Celtic that I can't really get too excited about the prospect of taking Celtic on.
Yeah, I mean, it will. We obviously don't know what's to come, but if we do have a go at them, it will take a bit of getting used to, won't it? But we saw. I was entertained from the game against Livingston, which I've not been entertained for a long time. That's after 3 days on the training pitch with Stephen Glass. So we can only hope for a little bit better with a little bit more time. But still, there is that apprehension just from the past couple of years. It's just natural, to be honest.
Yeah, and just the amount of hurt that Celtic have inflicted in years and years of cup finals alone, let alone league, as we were discussing before recording, that league under Ronnie Deila as well. Now we've touched on Scott Brown. Whilst we've got you, Colin, it would be rude not to kind of hear a Celtic opinion on the whole Scott Brown saga. Obviously ending his 14 years at the club and joining Aberdeen as a player coach. Were you surprised Celtic kind of didn't push the boat out to keep him?
I think Scott Brown falls into the same scenario as the sort of Johnny Hayes, the Craig Gordon of last season now, as we look at it, where Celtic had this idea of probably just offering them a 1-year contract with a reduced amount of wages, whereas both of those players took the stability. I think, has Hayes got a 3-year deal at Aberdeen? Is it 2 years, 3 years?
I think it was, is it? I thought it was 2.
Well, we've got no idea.
Thanks, guys. But either way, it's the stability of having that extra period on your contract. And that opportunity at Aberdeen to get into a coaching role, I guess he'll be the assistant coach to Stephen Glass there at Aberdeen. Whilst having that influence of being on the park. Whether he'll take the captain's role, I don't know what your guys' thoughts would be on that. But definitely, I mean, if you take the whole idea that it's Scott Brown out of the equation, if you're offered a player that's won 10 league titles, all these trophies, he's captained his country and his club, he's coming to the end of his career, but he's still got something to offer the side, considering the amount of games that he's played for us this season. It is a no-brainer, but the problem is with a lot of Scottish football, it's Scott Brown. So he's the pantomime villain. Everybody's out to hate him. But I tell you what, he's the kind of player you want on your side and not playing against. So I think Aberdeen fans, although at first will kind of be like, it's Scott Brown, they've got this history. Once you see the performances he puts in, he's 90 minutes committed on the park to the team he's playing for, and that's all you can ask for. I think he's not as influential as he was a couple of seasons ago, but he'll still be a good addition to that Aberdeen side. And
do you think he will be able to play large part of next season, or do you think we would see maybe him just used as it kind of for experience games such as European campaigns and cup competitions?
I think if the structure of the games changes next season as opposed to this season, where he was potentially playing 3 games in a week, he was playing 90 minutes week in, week out, and they were relying on him in the heart of that midfield to stop the attacks, to sort of build their own, then you'll definitely get probably 30, 35 games out of him. And I guess the intensity at Aberdeen, without being too disrespectful, will be a bit lower than what it would be playing for Celtic. I mean, Aberdeen want to win as many games as they can, but they know they're not going to win week in, week out. Whereas at Celtic, that's sort of expected for you to win week in, week out. Sometimes, depending on who the fans are, it doesn't matter who you're playing. You're expected to win as a Celtic player. So I think if he can bring that mentality to the Aberdeen squad, it's probably a really good addition. If you can encourage players that will go, it's 1-1, we're happy with the points. No, you want the 3 points. Because that's what his career's been built on. I think you'll get 30 games out of him next season at least. I don't know where he'll fit into the squad as it attains to captaincy and stuff like that, but I guess he's got that assistant manager's position. And maybe he can get my wee pal Lewis Ferguson to stop getting so many yellow cards, because he picked one up at the weekend knowing that I'd be on here with you boys this week.
And I think, Colin, that's kind of interesting to hear. You know, we've discussed it once the news kind of came out, was the mentality and having a Scott Brown mentality throughout the whole team, because there has been question marks over our midfield being too soft, and how much that will help. And I also think he'll be a big benefit to the likes of Dean Campbell in developing his career throughout. But on the captaincy, do you think he'll be captain next season?
I don't think so. I kind of hope not. But I don't know. I think maybe he's probably got enough of a leadership role that without that, he probably doesn't need it. And there's obviously the question marks over how many games he'll actually start. I've got a feeling he might be a bit of more of a role player than we expect, sort of dipping in as and when that's sort of needed. But his potential influence on, as you mentioned, guys like Campbell, Ferguson, if he's still there, McCrory, that's exactly what they need. As we said, they have been a bit soft in midfield, and he's sort of got that win at all costs attitude and mentality that we've probably not seen since Shinnie left, and obviously even to a greater extent than Shinnie even had, given his success, Scott Brown's success. I mean, so it has the potential to be very, very positive, even if it's not directly from him, but from his influence over others. That's possibly what we're looking at.
Yeah, and I suppose kind of what Colin kind of mentions there about Lewis Ferguson's bookings, with the way Scott Brown kind of runs the rule over the referees, he's probably going to be able to help him avoid bookings next season. But Colin, I can't remember if it was yourself that was on a Celtic State of Mind discussing, was it using Lee Griffiths as a weight in terms of transfer for Lee Griffiths?
Yeah, for Lewis Ferguson, you mean?
Lewis Ferguson, yeah.
Yeah, so that was put out there, and we've sort of read the reports on that. For me, I really don't think Lewis Ferguson has the ability, and I'm probably losing every sort of credence I had with any Aberdeen fans that's watching. I don't think he has that ability to step up to a Celtic or a Rangers. I think you've seen that with a lot of these players who have a big bit of hype about them, and they take a while to settle in. I mean, I've been impressed, I suppose, with Ryan Jack and how he's made that transition. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, for every Ryan Jack, there's an Andy Halliday. You know what I mean? And I just have that feeling that when you've got the Ferguson name, if you move to Rangers, you've got all that pressure on you. You've got to live up to the rest of your family. And that's on you from day one. And at Celtic, I mean, where does he fit into that Celtic side? You're talking that you hope to keep maybe McGregor, Turnbull there. You're not going to give him the minutes that he needs to develop. I think he's better suited at Aberdeen. And then if he does make the move, I think he'd be better moving down south.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all of that. I don't really see where he would fit into Celtic. I do see what you're saying about Ryan Jack. I know it's a sensitive subject for many Aberdeen fans, but I do think he'll be a big loss for Scotland at the Euros. I know many will disagree with that just purely because of who he is. But if you look at kind of the role he's filled for Scotland, I know Natasha said that hopefully that would see David Turnbull kind of step up for a place, but Turnbull doesn't have the role that Ryan Jack does.
No.
So we're kind of missing a defensive-minded midfielder. But on Lee Griffiths, do you think he'll still be at Celtic next season?
I don't think so. No. I think his time has came. I believe he's out of contract in the summer as well. So that's a potential freebie for a lot of teams to come in and to snap him up. We were speaking before we came on there about the season he scored 40 goals. That basically was the difference between Celtic and Aberdeen. Mm-hmm. But that's 5 years ago. That's the last time I've really seen a Lee Griffiths that was completely firing, inspiring, banging in the goals. He's just not got to that level. I know, Callum, you mentioned the 2 goals against England, and everybody will look back to that. But that was that not his first 2 goals for his country as well?
Yeah.
So it does show that you're either getting a fantastic striker that knows where the back of the net is, or you're getting someone who his career's just kind of not hit the heights that it really should have. Mm-hmm. And he's been a fantastic servant to Celtic. He's got over 100 goals. If he wants to extend his career, I think it would be out with Celtic because he'd be a bit of a bit part player, which he has been for the last couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm. I suppose, Callum, looking at who we've now got on the coaching staff, Alan Russell, who's worked with the likes of Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford and whatnot, maybe having someone like him on board would appeal if Lee Griffiths does choose to leave Celtic. It might make us an attractive option. Obviously, he'll have his friend Scott Brown at the club as well. I just feel with having Russell on board, we've got that sort of appeal to that area of the pitch which we have lacked in massively this season.
100%. Got a very, very good CV, Alan Russell, given the people he's worked with. And also with Lee Griffiths, 100% I'd take him at Aberdeen. He's clinical. That's what we've missed that probably since Adam Rooney left. And even then, Lee Griffiths on his day, obviously far more capable than Adam Rooney in terms of footballing sense. Would definitely take it 100%. And also a move away from the central belt for him could be good. It could be what he needs to, maybe get things going again, away from that sort of pressure, sort of fishbowl that is Glasgow, where it's all eyes on Celtic and Rangers kind of thing. Fingers crossed.
Am I right in saying that Ferguson's the top scorer this season with 8 goals?
Yeah, you are. Yes.
And I don't think he's scored since like November as well, or something like that. Ridiculous.
October.
That's a massive concern when you've not got a striker that can at least get you 10 goals. I mean, we spoke about J. Emmanuel Thomas earlier. In a Livingston side, he's even managed to bang in 7 goals this season.
And as well, for Lewis Ferguson, a lot of his goals have been penalties as well.
Yeah.
So, but no, on Lee Griffiths, I definitely agree. If we can get, obviously, he's had his struggles off the field. If they could be flattened out, there's no doubt. And I think there was a game earlier this season away at St Johnstone where he came on as a late substitute. I think Celtic were losing that game and he came on.
It was nothing each, and then he scored.
He scored a header and then Sal Klamala, and that's what we're lacking, a striker that needs that one opportunity and bags it, whereas we've seen throughout, even we saw in evidence at the weekend with Flo Canberra, needed a couple of chances before finally putting something away. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks. And also on Wednesday, can we build on that confidence and take into Wednesday's game and build on one victory and hopefully improve in the race for third? And will we or won't we see a reaction from Celtic? Will they have their minds on another trip to Dubai? Who knows?
I wouldn't put it past them.
No. Well, Colin, thank you very much again for taking your time to come and join us on Red Tinted Glasses. And where can folk that obviously if this is the first time hearing you, they can listen to your weekly podcast, The Football Insomniac?
Yeah, so we're live on A State of Mind. We've moved to Fridays at tea time, so prime time on A State of Mind YouTube channel. I've now got a new co-host in Callum McFadden from Football CFB, so check that out on Fridays. There's a interview just went up in the last few days with Paul Lambert, looking back at his career, which is doing really well, so if you want to check that out. And I'm on Twitter at Colin88Watt.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and that's a great coup getting Paul Lambert on for that interview, and it's on my list of things to listen to for the rest of the day, along with my podcasts. So, Callum, thanks again for joining me, and Colin, thanks for joining us both.
Thanks very much for having us, guys.
Yep, thank you very much, Colin, and thank you very much for you tuning in at home, whether it's listening or watching. If you're listening, make sure to follow us wherever you're doing so. Follow us on Twitter at RTG_podcast 2 and subscribe on YouTube with notifications on. Leave a comment down below, let us know all your thoughts, and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it as well.